AEW Double or Nothing is live this Saturday night on pay-per-view, and BR Live, $49.99 is the price tag, from Jacksonville, Florida. Their first empty arena pay-per-view show with a card that, given the circumstances, doesn't look bad at all on paper. Not what it would have looked like, I'm sure, but there's a few potential sleepers here that I'm looking forward to. First, though, just going back to Dynamite from last night, if you missed the show, if you missed the stream after the show here on YouTube, there were some injuries and potential injuries coming out of the show. Rey Fenix was probably the scariest one of them all. I don't know for sure if there is a serious injury or not. I don't get the sense if there is an injury that it's serious, but he took a hard fall on a dive outside the ring where he just sort of, I don't know if he undershot what he was trying to do or exactly what went wrong, but he came crashing down. Nobody caught him. He landed right on his back. May have knocked the wind out of himself. Again, I don't know if he's hurt, but he's scheduled for the ladder match on Saturday. So that would be a problem, obviously, if he were hurt. Britt Baker and Hikaru Shida. That women's match was deadlier than I thought when I first watched it last night. Britt Baker was down in the corner at one point, and Chris Statlander and Hikaru Shida had lifted Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is a big woman. They lifted Nyla Rose up and they slammed her basically on top of Britt, but really on top of Britt's leg and right on top of her knee in the corner. And Britt wasn't the same after that. She was in the ring for a little bit longer, didn't do much, clearly was having trouble with her leg, was checked out by a doctor on the apron, never got back into the match. So there's been no update since, as I am recording this. Tony Schiavone is her BFF, so maybe I should ask him. But that looked ugly. And at first I thought, well, it just seemed work to me, but now I'm not so sure. And she's scheduled for a match on this pay-per-view as well. Could be in jeopardy if she's hurt, but again, there's been, as of this moment, no firm update on her condition. Hikaru Shida came down on a superplex off the ropes to Nyla after the match through a table. And it looked like the back of her head took all of the impact. She put Nyla through the table, but the back of Shida's head crashed through the table, and she may have been knocked loopy. So just a whole bunch of things that could have gone way, way wrong and did go wrong in that women's match. Upon going back and just kind of rewatching exactly what happened, that was a dangerous match. This was not an example of what you want to see a few days before a pay-per-view. And again, just a very shaky match. One of these shaky tag team or multi-woman matches where there's a few moments in there that look kind of scary. Like maybe they're not on the same page. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but those are some scary moments from last night that could have an impact on the show this weekend. Matt Jackson. It's not just limited to the ladies. Matt Jackson also suffered, according to the Observer, some sort of injury. Possibly a broken rib or some kind of bad bruise to a rib on his left side when the Young Bucks showed up and dove off of the barriers onto the inner circle on the football field. This was the first appearance on Dynamite for the Young Bucks in, I think, a couple of months, or almost a couple of months. We've seen them on Being the Elite. Matt and Nick had their match a few weeks ago on Being the Elite 200. So the first move back, he potentially breaks his rib. But even if he has a broken rib, I suspect that it will not stop him from being part of the Stadium Stampede this weekend. So what I want to do real quick here is just run through this card as it currently stands and give my predictions for what I think is going to be going down on Saturday night. We've got the Best Friends taking on Private Party on the buy-in kickoff show. I'm going to go with the Best Friends just because they've been more visible on television. Them and Orange Cassidy. I know Private Party's been wrestling more so on AEW Dark. We really haven't seen them at all other than just in the stands, acting as fans in the crowd on Dynamite. They could probably use a big win here, but I just feel like the Best Friends are going to go over, so they're my pick. Shawn Spears has been added to the show. As of last night, he issued the challenge to Dustin Rhodes, had some very unsavory comments about Dustin Rhodes, referring to his past drug abuse, swallowing pills years ago. Thankfully, Dustin now is in a better place in his life. But I also look at this and I say there's absolutely no reason for Dustin Rhodes to win this match. Shawn Spears is the one that they should be trying to do something with. There's not a whole lot going on with him right now. I wonder, have they abandoned the tag team search? We haven't seen Tully. I'm assuming because of the pandemic, they haven't been flying him in. They were doing this whole story where they were searching for the perfect tag team partner for Shawn Spears, and that looks like it may have been abandoned. Shawn Spears needs this win a hell of a lot more than Dustin Rhodes does, so I'm picking Shawn Spears. We have Britt Baker, assuming that she is physically able to do so, wrestling Chris Statlander. If she is able to go, I'm going with Baker in this match. We've got the Casino Ladder match in place of what normally would be the Casino Battle Royal. Can't do a Battle Royal if you're limited in the number of people you can have in the ring at once. As it is, they're going to have 9 participants in this ladder match, plus the referee, so you'll have some people around ringside. Battle Royal, though, normally you would have 20 or more. So I assume that's why they made the change. But it's going to be a change that I'm sure is going to lead to a crazier match, and it may well lead to more injuries, because look at some of the guys that are in this match. Okay, Darby Allin, Rey Fenix, again, if he's okay and able to go. Orange Cassidy, Colt Cabana, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, Kip Sabian, Luchasaurus, and a mystery entrant. The winner gets a shot at the AEW World Championship at a later date. So the question is, who is this mystery entrant? I've had some ideas. Somebody last night actually floated a name that I had totally forgotten about, but I think it makes a lot of sense, and that is Brian Cage. There were a lot of rumors a few months ago that Brian Cage, who had left Impact, had signed or was about to sign a contract with AEW, and he got hurt. He had gotten hurt. I think it might have been a torn biceps. That's a few months off. Well, it's been a few months. I don't know how many months it's been, but it's been a few months. Might we see Brian Cage debut for AEW here in this match? What about Jeff Cobb? We have Jeff Cobb on television not too long ago, working on behalf of Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle, but at the time we had heard that Cody and them had offered him a contract. He wasn't really ready to settle down and make a commitment. He wanted to be a free agent and just be able to kind of bounce around and go where he wanted to go. And then the world changed, right? New Japan hasn't had any shows. Ring of Honor hasn't had any shows. The independent scene is basically frozen. It's dead for the time being. Where's Jeff Cobb going to go? Maybe he's ready to settle down and sign something with AEW. Maybe he's the mystery man. Could it be a released WWE star? WWE let go of over 24 people. I think almost 36. Going back to the beginning of April, the thing you got to remember about that, when you start rattling off names like Rusev and Zack Ryder and, Drake Maverick, who may or may not be fired still. Who knows what's going on with Drake Maverick? When you start rattling off all these names, you got to remember something, that these were people who were released. These were not people in pretty much all of those cases whose contracts were up and they simply let them lapse. And because they were released, that means that they're bound by the typical 90-day non-compete, which means Rusev and these guys are not going to be able, I don't think, Eric Rowan, all these people that we were even talking about on the stream last night, I don't believe are going to be legally able to appear this quickly for AEW, except there is one name. There is one name who was not released. There was one name whose contract very quietly expired, and his name is Drew Gulak, who is coming off one of the best matches that he's had, certainly in his WWE career. Not to diminish some of the great matches he did have when he was the Cruiserweight champion, but he had that great match on SmackDown just a couple of weeks ago with Daniel Bryan. So, and he's been on television, on Fox, on SmackDown for the last few months, doing the whole teacher-student storyline with Bryan. So he's got some name value and name recognition coming off of WWE television. Could it be Drew Gulak? Might Drew Gulak show up in the ladder match? I'm going to say Brian Cage. My guess and my pick for who the mystery entrant is Brian Cage. And this is important because I believe the mystery entrant is going to win this ladder match. So I'm going to do the double prediction here and say Brian Cage, and Brian Cage wins. And he'll have an AEW title match in his back pocket that he can, I guess, cash in on at some point, maybe later in the year. We have MJF taking on Jungle Boy of the Lucha House Party. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Yes, Jungle Boy, the member of the Lucha House Party that you did not know existed, the one member of the Lucha House Party without a mask. Yeah, he's part of the Jurassic Express. I was thinking of the Lucha Bros. Jungle Boy and MJF. I did have to think about this because I think there is a chance that Jungle Boy could win, but, MJF just came back. He was off television for a while, had that horrendous near career-ending injury, the horrible hangnail. But he's also coming off a big win, let us not forget, just a few months ago over Cody. And again, things kind of got stalled with everything that happened. And I think they need to pick back up with that momentum. You can't have MJF go to a pay-per-view a few months ago, get a win over Cody, and then be coming on the next pay-per-view and losing to Jungle Boy. I don't care how popular Jungle Boy is. So I think MJF should win this match. And he will win. We have the AEW Women's Champion Nyla Rose, the Beast, taking on Hikaru Shida. No disqualifications, no count out. I would change the title here. I don't think they will. I'm picking Nyla Rose. She's my prediction. That is not my wish. That is not my hope. If it were me, I would get that championship on Shida. She's a better wrestler. She's more reliable. She can go out there, I think, and do a better job of representing the women's division. If you want them to go out there and just have these killer matches, just to kind of get things going in this division. She's well experienced. She goes in there. She knows what she's doing. I think she would be a great choice for AEW Women's Champion, but I know what they're doing. They're building up Nyla as the monster. They want the unbeatable monster. So when somebody eventually comes along and beats her, it'll feel like a bigger deal. But it just feels like this division is stuck in the mud. So if it were me, I would change the title. But I think Nyla Rose is going to win. Then we get into the main event matches. IRON Mike Tyson. He will be there to present the new TNT Championship belt, which we still have not seen. We know that the TNT Network logo is going to be represented somewhere on this belt. That could go many different ways. So we will get to see the championship finally for the first time on Saturday. And Iron Mike will be there to present the winner with the championship, the winner of the tournament final, pitting the Murderhawk monster, Lance Archer, against Cody. And if you watched the face-off on Dynamite last night between Arn Anderson and Jake the Snake Roberts, they were teasing an Arn spinebuster maybe to Jake at the pay-per-view. Or some kind of a spot involving Mike Tyson, who apparently is going to have his run of the place. He'll be allowed to roam around, or if he wants to be ringside for the match, if he wants to go sit up in the bleachers, he'll be very lonely up there. There won't be anybody else up there with him. But he can certainly do that. But I would expect that there would be some kind of spot, some kind of physicality involving Tyson. Now, Lance Archer, ever since he's debuted, has been dominant. He has been unbeaten since coming to AEW. Cody's a made man no matter what happens here. But let's take a look at what the last few months for Cody have looked like. Okay, he's not on a losing streak where he's losing every match, but Cody, he lost to Chris Jericho when he challenged for the AEW World title. Fell short, didn't win, and not only that, was no longer allowed to challenge for the World Championship. Then he gets betrayed by his good friend, MJF, gets beaten by MJF. And Jake Roberts put a snake on his wife and dry humped her on live television. Cody should win this match. The babyface should get his revenge. And I think with Mike Tyson there, maybe to provide an assist. Maybe Jake bumps Arn. Arn goes down. Jake tries to get involved. Tyson stops him. But I don't see Mike Tyson presenting the championship to the heels. I think Cody is the right choice. I really do. I think Cody is the right choice to be the first TNT champion. He can defend on TV, maybe not every single week, although it is a television title. But he can defend maybe a couple of times each month on TV until He gets to Darby Allin. And this time when they meet, unlike their last 2 times, Darby finally beats him. I think this is building to Darby Allin finally getting one over on Cody. And in doing so, he wins the TNT Championship. Maybe it all out at the end of the summer. So Cody is my pick. And I would like to see them have Darby be the one to take the title off of him. Then we have the Elite. Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, teaming with Matt Hardy to take on the Inner Circle in the first ever Stadium Stampede match to be held next door inside TIAA Field, the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Someone can be pinned in the press box or in the concession area or in the bathroom. Dusty Rhodes would be proud because it is Falls Count Anywhere. There will be a ring positioned at the 50-yard line, but at that point, anything goes. And Falls Count Anywhere in the stadium. I think the Inner Circle needs a win here. And Sammy Guevara needs a win. I mean, every time, I like Sammy Guevara, but every time we see this guy, he loses. So I think Jericho and Sammy, they need a win here. I think they need it more. And I think they get it. With an assist from the debuting FTR. Dax Harwood, a terrible name, and Cash Wheeler, the former Revival. I think they make their debut here. I think they take out the Young Bucks, get that program started, and they, in doing so, help the Inner Circle to a win. You know, don't forget Hangman Page. We saw it again a little bit at the end of the show last night. Still some friction there. Still some issues with him and his partner, Kenny Omega. Matt Hardy is not even a real member of the Elite. He's kind of an honorary one-night member of the Elite. And this all put together just looks like a recipe for an Inner Circle win. Although I also think we're going to see the rise of Vanguard 2. I do think we're going to get some drone action on this show. And I think Vanguard 2 will make an appearance at some point during this match, but I'm picking the Inner Circle to win. And then we have the AEW champion Jon Moxley defending the championship against Mr. Brodie Lee of the Dark Order. The battles between the Shield and the Wyatt family made for some of the best WWE television, I thought, in 2014. That and the Daniel Bryan stuff. Moxley and Lee were part of that. They have worked together before. This is the biggest match of Brodie Lee's life. He is challenging for the world title in the main event on pay-per-view. He is a leader now. He's not a follower anymore. But it feels too soon to take the championship off of Moxley. And it feels too soon for Lee to be in this position. He is still on the rise. They're still telling this whole story of the Dark Order and the relationship between him and his minions, and he's recruiting new people, and he hasn't been here that long. They're still building him up, and he was suddenly thrust into this position. Now, it may have been because of the pandemic. They were forced to change plans. My guess is that this card, originally on paper, the main event anyway, looked very different 3 months ago. So it may well have been that they were making the best of a bad situation. It's not ideal to beat him so soon, but I think it would be a mistake to change the title here. So it's on them. It's on them to come up with a way for Lee to not win the title while still being kept strong. If that means Lee loses it after and, beats up every member of the Dark Order and just snaps, then so be it. I'm not a big fan of the Dark Order. I think some of the vignettes they've done have been nice and kind of fun, but, we're dealing with faceless men named 8, 9, and 10. We're dealing with a bunch of numbers here. You've got Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They've been off television and stuck at home. Might we see them reappear at the pay-per-view? I think it's a possibility. But I just don't take them seriously as any kind of threat to the world title. Nor do I think they should be sniffing the world title right now. I don't think they should be anywhere near the world championship. But what Brodie Lee could do is go out there and try to have the best match of his life. And if he can do that, win or lose, he'll come out of the show, I think, stronger than he was going into it with a good performance. Which I think he needs, because he has not yet, since he came to AEW, had the chance to have a big match like this. This is the biggest match of his career. But I look at Jon Moxley, got Moxley defending against MJF. Got Moxley defending eventually against Kenny Omega. Those are the matches they should be building to. And I still say, with Omega losing to Moxley in the Lights Out match they had back at Full Gear in November. That issue is unresolved. And the story to tell is eventually having Kenny Omega leave the tag team ranks once things finally erupt between him and Hangman, and go for the title. Start his mission for the World Championship. Let's get that Kenny Omega back and build to Omega Moxley with Omega winning the title. And then you open the door to do Hangman Page as the challenger for the title. Hopefully when people are allowed back into these buildings, because there was no one more over than him before all of this happened. And the reactions that he and Darby Allin, both were getting. Go back to Revolution when they had that amazing tag team match. But just the reaction to Hangman, the reaction to Darby when he came out for that match with Sammy Guevara, they were getting superstar reactions. The fans like these two guys. They buy into them. Longer term, I think, end of 2020, early 2021, they're the ones that should be elevated to this position. But everything that you're doing right now should be building for that. And sure, you could give Brodie Lee a shock win. You want to swerve everybody and give Brodie Lee a shock win and have him hold the championship for a couple of months? You could do it, but I just don't see what that accomplishes. So I think Jon Moxley ought to retain, and I think he will. So I'm picking him to win in the main event. So I hope you will join me. I hope you will choose me for your AEW Double or Nothing recap. I will be going live on YouTube Saturday night whenever the pay-per-view ends. I'm hoping it doesn't end too late. There have been AEW shows before that have gone close to midnight. I really hope that doesn't happen. That's one of the things I loved about Money in the Bank. Even if you didn't like the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, I think the best part of the show is that it was only 2.5 hours. It felt like an in-your-house show. Which is funny because we're getting an in-your-house show in a couple of weeks from NXT. So whenever the pay-per-view ends, head on over to the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And we'll have ourselves a good old-fashioned Double or Nothing recap party on YouTube. And then, of course, episode 653 of the Sound Off drops, as always, on Sunday. So until then, take care, guys. I'll see you this weekend.